Hi again everyone, SMCMP here, bringing you another cool makeup video as well as some autopsy stories for those of you who would like to know. You want to say hi to everybody? Okay, or just baby talk a little. If you've been enjoying the videos, please consider subscribing. And I want to apologize because last weekend she was a little bit sick. Then we moved, so I was just way too busy to actually make a video for you guys. But now I'm back. Also, I got a contouring palette that I was really excited about. So if you want to watch me achieve this look on my face and hear about autopsy stories, a little bit funny, a little bit just normal, factual, then stick around. As always, crime scene stories as well as pretty much anything else story-wise I'm going to tell you, just by their very nature, will contain sensitive, graphic, or disturbing content, and viewer discretion is highly advised. If you're having thoughts or feelings about hurting yourself or others, please talk to someone and actually talk to them. Don't just send a text. Like, get a hold of somebody who will listen to you. That could be a family member, a friend, someone in your neighborhood, someone from your church. If that's what you're into, you really just need to talk these feelings out. You can always call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is 1-800-273-TALK. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. You can call your non-emergency line for your local police department, or you can call 911 and just tell them what's going on. You just need to talk about these thoughts or feelings of hurting yourself or others before you possibly do something that you can't take back or that you regret. Now that we've made it through that, if you guys stick around a little bit, then you're going to get to watch some cool makeup, hear some interesting autopsy stories, and we will see you later and see you next week. Bye. You want to say bye? And one last thing that I keep forgetting, and I keep forgetting to do it in my actual application videos too, that at the end of putting all this makeup on, I actually am using a setting spray. And at the end of this video in particular, I put on a Buxom plumping lip gloss. So those aren't on the video, but that's why I'm telling you now. So, okay, stick around, enjoy the video, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you guys for hanging around. I'm gonna get started. My face is a little bit dry today, and so I'm gonna use this moisturizing primer. I've already moisturized my face before starting up the video. I don't really know how well this moisturizing primer works, but because it doesn't feel as good as like an actual moisturizer. But because I've already moisturized my face, that's why I figured it's not going to hurt anything. Now we can use the regular primer that I'm planning to use for my face. And today's story isn't so much about crime scene, but it is something that I had to deal with a lot as a crime scene investigator. More so in my previous agency, because I've been over a year now at my current agency and I haven't had to do one, but that's autopsies. Going in and, not that I'm actually doing them, but going in and documenting them. And I remember, so during undergrad, of course, I had my internship. And part of that internship was going in and collecting major case prints from the decedents, or actually that was what we were doing, because I don't remember us documenting the autopsies at that agency. So major case prints is where you go in and you collect all the normal fingerprints, you know, from the end joints of the fingers, but you're also collecting the entirety of the finger, you're collecting the palm print, you're collecting the grip, the rest, you're collecting everything you possibly can information-wise from that hand. Because this is the last opportunity to collect any of that data from that person before they are cremated or interred. So that's what we were doing there. And I remember seeing there were garbage cans around the perimeter of the room, and they were red, and they were lined with a red bio bag. And there was a sign above each one of them that said, "Organs only, no trash." And I kind of thought that, you know, because we all have like these really dark senses of humor in the forensics business, because you have to. It's a defense mechanism for dealing with some of the terrible things you see all the time. And so I kind of thought it was a joke until I was actually present when they were sewing some people up, and here's this bag of organs that is either between the feet of the decedent and then just zipped back into the body bag, or they're actually like replacing the bag into the opened body cavity and then sewing that up. And that's what surprised me, that I didn't realize that during the autopsy they take all the organs out and just kind of throw them back in however, or they don't even go back in and they go to between the feet. Because I didn't think they stitched him back in perfectly or anything, but I figured they put him back in some kind of normal order. And then in fact, that was not the case. I didn't really know that they just kind of put him in however, and that was a little bit surprising for me. This light situation I've moved to a new place, and this isn't the best setup so far, but I'm trying. I've also been trying something new, trick-wise, is starting very small with the eyeshadow and kind of trying to build this wing with just eyeshadow first. Because I've seen some makeup artists who it doesn't even look like they're using eyeliner at all. They're really just building their wing with the eyeshadow. And it looks really nice. So I've been trying to emulate it. I remember being laughed at by my supervisor of the internship when I told him about what I thought they were going to do during an autopsy. No, you gotta pause the video, babe. And this wasn't my advisor for undergrad. This was actually the supervisor of that crime scene unit, laughing at how naive I was. But, you know, I didn't have any experience with any of that stuff. And I wasn't so naive as to think like, oh, well, of course they're going to sew everything back in where it belongs. But I at least thought there was going to be some kind of organization, maybe, some order to it. But I was wrong. Now I'm just going in with some color. At my last agency, we did a lot of documenting of the autopsies. Now, in the medical examiner's office or coroner's office, depending on where you live, there are techs in there who do photographs and everything, but we would also do them as just so our detectives could use them. Once, I think, in the history of any of the CSIs, did they recall the ME actually testifying to the photos that they took during the procedure. And I think that was only because there was some issue with the tech's SD card that somehow was corrupted, or somehow they lost their photos. And so the ME actually used our photos during their testimony. But that was definitely out of the normal. What we would do is we would document any external injuries, mostly. Document anything they were wearing. When we first opened the bag, document that the bag was still sealed with the same seal that it was sealed with at the scene when the body was retrieved. Especially in a case where there was no evidence of external trauma, then we would document the internal trauma visible. So that often would happen with babies, sometimes with adults, if it was like a slip and fall type death and like they hit their head, you know, there may not be any external marks that even show anything. But then when they would open the skull up, you would see the bruising or the bleeding on their brain. And especially with babies, because it's not often, I mean, babies don't always have external trauma that shows even what has happened to them that caused them to die. So a lot of times with babies, you would need to stay for the internal portion to document those injuries. And now I'm just going in with a little bit of that first color I used. I probably should have used that because it's as my transition color, but instead I went in with this darker one because I'm a little bit tired today and I didn't really plan it out. Have you guys ever seen an autopsy in school, or even if it was just a video of one, or maybe in college, was that part of your one of your classes, especially for pre-med students? Maybe you would have to attend and witness one. I've been into a lot of different morgues and ME's offices around the country. Some are really big and have multiple, you know, stations where they can be working on bodies. Some are really tiny. One thing that was interesting is they all have the same smell, which I never knew what it was. And I still don't necessarily. But it didn't matter the size or the number of autopsies that are completed in that room. They just always had the same odor. And then one time I was at the grocery store in the meat section and I caught a whiff of, you know, morgue or autopsy. And now I think maybe it's just the smell of meat. So maybe if I go to a slaughterhouse where they're doing a lot of meat processing, it may smell the same, and then I'll have my hypothesis confirmed that it's just the odor of meat, and that's why they all smell so similar. I haven't managed to find my tables or anything to do this, so I'm a little bit disorganized. I put some highlight right up here under my brow. I'm going to use this lighter beige color right here. Today, Sweet Pea is doing a double gymnastics, so I don't have a ton of time, but I did get started earlier than usual. At least now I'm not racing. Now let's see what we can do wing-wise with this little brush. I would like to try something not so dark, because then you can keep adding to it and build it up. If you just start with something super dark right out of the gate, then if you mess it up, you're just stuck with it all day. Or you got to clean it off and start over. Neither of those are an option I'm willing to entertain today. And what I'm doing is I'm just going in. I have this little brush that's very thin and it's slanted. And I'm just following along this lower lash line. And I'm just continuing with that same angle up and out. I mean, it doesn't work as well. I wish I could figure out how those artists are doing it, but I guess that's, you know, comes with the territory of actually being a professional, that they're practiced and they have all these skills that us mere mortals maybe we're not going to have until we practice a lot. I don't need it to be too extreme, so I'm probably just going to leave it like that. This is good. I am going to use some eyeliner on the eyelid, but I'm happy with the effect I've got going on here. I can go in here and do this, my eyebrows. Honey, what's going on, babes?
you with your teacher.
Oh, it's not my teacher's. I'm making a video, so you can sit with me if you want.
I I'm kind of just joking. I just want a few more gummies.
I thought you wanted those for after gymnastics.
Maybe a Rice Krispie treat.
Okay.
But how do I get the fit on your leg?
Well, get your crispy treat and then come over here and I'll help you. Yeah, last weekend was crazy. Saturday, Sweet Pea was a little bit sick. And that's typically the day I do my videos. And then Sunday, we were moving. And I thought about trying to do a makeup video Sunday morning. And then the test would be how well did the makeup stand up to the moving process. But there was just no time. Like, at all. Those of you who subscribed, thank you. And again, I apologize for not having the video last weekend. So I'm trying to make a good one today to make up for it. Next week, hopefully, I will have things set up a little better. Have my tables back. Have pics. I mean, it might just end up being this window, but you know, at least maybe it'll be a little sunnier. It's kind of overcast today. So I feel like the light quality is lacking. You gonna come over here now?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Open these gummies for me.
Those gummies? I thought you were getting a crispy treat.
Excuse you.
Excuse you. Of course I got it on my face as usual. I'll just let those sit. I didn't plan for eyeliner, so it was left to the side. Wow, it's a lot tougher to do with one hand. I'm really bad about pulling on my eye, probably because my eyes are getting a little old, and so the skin is wrinkly. Eyeliner doesn't go on very well because it's pushing it all over the place. This time I can just get the color on there and then smudge, so it doesn't have to be on there real smooth. It just needs to get pigment on the skin. And I found my smudge brush. So now I'm gonna go over here where I have a better mirror and smudge. And some mascara. I'm gonna put a little bit of concealer around and actually kind of like rub it in, blend it out some. I'm really excited about today because I got a contouring palette that I finally get to use on the video with you guys. Blend this in a little with my finger. I am going to put on foundation so it doesn't have to be perfect. I have a brush that I've been using, but using your finger is just as effective. And like I said, I am on a bit of a pinch of time, so I'm trying to hurry. So I really want to be able to do the contouring today. I still moisturize my brush before I start putting this on. And again, I don't tap with this brush anymore because it doesn't feel very good. So I am just really using it. Even if it's short brush strokes, I am brushing it along the skin. There we go. Make sure it's nice and even. Looks good. Now I'm going in with my kabuki brush with some powder. I also like to take a little bit of this powder and go right in where that highlighter is at the dark corner of my eye underneath, because it does help to darken that down some. You can go in with the contouring. And this has a nice big mirror, which is good. It has 3 contouring shades. It has 2 highlighters that I don't really like. And then it has a bronzer, kind of, I used it as a blush one day, but it was a little too pink. So really I'm just all about the three contouring shades. I start with the lightest, and I'm going to go in just underneath this cheekbone where you can see there's naturally a shadow. I treat this lightest of the contouring shades like a transition shade of eyeliner. So it's okay if it kind of gets all over. Just make sure it's blended fairly well. Do the same on the other side. Then I go in with the medium shade, and I keep it a little more controlled. Not so wild because it is darker, but just more to the middle. And then finally, you want to be really gentle with the darkest shade, because otherwise you're just going to end up with some weird blotch of color. So, and that's the one that you're going to use the least. And I also try to put it more towards the furthest outer edge of the face. Make sure it's blended really well so you don't have a hard line. I also take some of that darkest color, go right along the chin. Hand them to me and I'll open them. I'm a professional multitasker.
Why don't you tell them that you have sweet pea snack?
I have sweet pea snack right here. Now that's blended in well. With that darkest shade along the bottom of my jawbone, I do kind of come up around this corner a little. But I don't want to look like I have a beard down there, so really make sure it's blended well. I like to put a little bit of shadow just here under the lip. I've been doing that with the medium, just to kind of accentuate the natural shadow that happens. And I've been using the lightest shade and just contouring a little bit on the sides of my nose with a very tiny amount. I can go in with my blush on a nice fluffy blush brush. I love this blush because it's a nice pink, but it's a cool tone for cool skin. So it doesn't seem too outrageously pink for me. And that's, I think, was the problem with the highlighters and the blush / bronzer in this palette, was that even though it was supposedly cooler toned, the contouring shades, yes, they are pretty cool, but the highlighters were really golden and the bronzer was really pink. Now I can go in with this other highlighter and I just really lightly along here at the very top of my cheekbone so I can catch some of that light. And again, really lightly here, working it out. I don't like the strong line of the highlighter, so I really try to blend that in with everything else. You can put a tiny bit here, and I put a tiny bit right down the bridge of my nose. I applied it with one finger and then I'm just tapping it in with the other because it is light and it will blend. And there it is. So hopefully if you enjoyed my story or the makeup look, you will consider subscribing, and I'm gonna get back on track with giving you the every Saturday makeup video with a crime scene story. So I hope to see you again next week, and enjoy and have a great rest of your day and great rest of your weekend. Bye.